saw Nicole head into the meeting.
Yep, she's there.
Okay, perfect. So we do not have a current chair as assigned secretary. I'm just going to go through the meeting and we can further discuss that. John Arnold has submitted his resignation. And I just need to share my screen.
And I don't see anybody else logged in yet.
No, but our meeting started at noon. We may or may not have a quorum, but we don't have action items.
Okay.
The three of us actually, I believe, constitute a quorum, a majority. We need 5 members. So the 3 of us would constitute a quorum. And Sarah took care of the oath of office. Again, John Arnold resigned. So we have an open position being announced for the airport committee. It was announced last night at council. I've had a gentleman email me with interest. He actually expressed interest a couple of weeks ago. And at that time, we didn't have a vacancy. So I'm going to forward the application on to him. It sounds like he may have had some airport experience, but of course, this board will review any applicants that come through and make their recommendations to the mayor for assignment. Nicole, I don't believe there were any written comments, public comments. Is that, well, the resignation of John Arnold. And then online, it looks like we have Stu Green, Jerry Divis, that was just sworn into office, and myself, Sarah Bisson.
Sarah. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. Stu, it's so good to see you in town.
Yeah, no kidding.
I caught a glimpse of you, I think maybe at the post office, but very fleeting.
I don't show Stu on my screen.
It's under Sarah D. Logan. He's sitting in the meeting room.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We have a hybrid meeting space now. So we do Zoom in for meetings, or you can attend the public meeting room, which is the library. Our city clerk is administering the schedule, the agendas, etc., of all meetings, which is wonderful to have it at one desk at this time, but she has all of the equipment there at the conference room.
How many people do we currently have on the board?
I believe, I just wrote a list. I believe 5. It would be, but we wanted one more in case there was ever an absence. So Jerry, yourself, Bill, Richard Sires, and myself.
Okay. Well, I guess 3 does make a quorum then, but you said there's no action items, so that's irrelevant. And we can have more than 5, right? 5 is like the optimum.
Yeah, okay. But we're not going to leave it open indefinitely. So we'll get a 6th one and see how the mayor feels about that, if he wants to grant any additional seats. This is our agenda here. We have no old business, no new business. There's no actionable items at this time, but there is items for discussion. We do have a project update in regard to our obstruction removal. The grant closeout is currently in process. The seedlings took root and no additional work is necessary. So we're working with FAA to close out that grant process. Final reporting has essentially been submitted and it takes them some time to review. No action is needed in regard to that. I'm hoping that I will get some pictures from Actually, probably at our next meeting, what I will do is have our consultant to come on board and talk about the work that was actually conducted, and what any pictures that they took so they can share them with the group. I have not seen those pictures as of yet, but I believe they were taking some. That's all I have for our obstruction removal. That was our one open grant, but really that closed out in the spring. They were just making sure that the seedlings took root. If they did not, they were going to have to do some additional plantlings, but that was not required. Based aircraft discussion. Right now, we are considered an unclassified airport because we do not have 10 based aircraft. When Dale Riches left, he sold his aircraft, and one of them was registered at another facility, which they do not count towards our total count. I'm working with Century West, our on-call architect and engineer, to try and ensure that, for example, Jerry's aircraft is now registered at our facility, but it is also registered at another facility. Century West is going to work on contacting that facility to ask them to remove it from their list. Usually at larger or at larger airports, they don't mind doing that because it doesn't impact them, but it is of great importance to us to have 10 or greater. And we have recently experienced a changeover at FAA. Jacob Hamilton was our airport district office planner, and he left for another position. There is a gentleman who came on board just this last month. His name is Thomas, and let me double check here. I can't remember his last name. My apologies. Thomas Richards. He is our new airport district office planner, and he is working with us on closing out our grant. But Century West had a conversation with him, and he believed that the base aircraft requirement was going to increase to 11. It's unfortunate that we don't have a couple more people on the call today, but really I need everyone's effort to talk to your pilot friends or anybody who would be willing to register their aircraft here if they have an FAA registration number. I will be pounding the pavement at the airport, talking to any pilots that would be interested in doing so. I would at least like to gain another 2 to 3, if not even 4. I mean, I'd take more aircraft that would be interested in registering here. And Jerry, feel free to elaborate. I don't believe it has any impact on the aircraft itself, but it makes a big difference for us because that means $150,000 a year that we can accumulate, roll over for 4 years, and contribute towards any projects that are necessary.
Okay, so I understand the airplane doesn't have to be based here, but it can be registered here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And in fact, we have 10 right now, but through the FAA registration, new owners have been identified on 2 of those aircraft. And if they so choose, they could move that and register elsewhere. I am going to write them a letter and ask them to keep their aircraft here at our facility just for based aircraft purposes. But of course, it can be housed elsewhere.
Yeah, okay. I'll mention that to, or I don't know, maybe you talk to my neighbor, Dwayne, too, but I'll mention that to him. He may know some people with aircraft that could register.
Potentially. And he has registered his aircraft with us.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in fact, that was very helpful. And I think what he actually bought some of Dale's aircraft.
Yeah, he's got 4 of them in there.
Okay.
He's got two assembled and 2 disassembled. So if they're not registered, you probably can't count Yeah, and until
That's what I think.
registered.
I think we have 2 that are registered.
Yeah.
On page number 6, so are there any further questions in regard to based aircraft? Okay, on page number 6 of our agenda, we can look at it here together. This is a snapshot of our airport budget. Oh, we really have no control over payroll. There is a small percentage of maintenance and my own payroll that is applicable to the airport and its grounds. And so that's how it's applied on a percentage basis. We still have some funds left over from our operating and office supplies. Essentially, that is the line item that would absorb Airport Appreciation Day and any supplies that we would need. So for example, some of this $300.08 includes janitorial supplies. You'll see here the supplies, it says COVID supplies. This is because this is the grants, $31,000 in grants available to combat COVID, and they're very particular about what can be assigned here. So I was able to do some maintenance. This expenditure reflects some of that paint that we purchased. Some of that funding can be used for maintenance costs like supplies, but it does not cover labor or a consultant to come in and do the painting. That's why our committee does it. But you'll see here, this gal, Anna Marquez, she is the person who's been cleaning our bathrooms. And instead of the general fund absorbing that, we can move this over here because it's an eligible expense. If we don't have eligible expenses going through on a periodic basis or illustrate that we're utilizing the funds, we could lose them. So we have to have these expenses. She is also cleaning the pilot's lounge as well.
That's good to know. I didn't know anybody cleaned it. I've been asking people that use it to be considerate of it, and if anything needs to be cleaned, to clean it up. So it's good to know somebody is looking after it.
I used to go in and clean it, but that's not really my role, and I'm a union employee. Cleaning bathrooms is not part of my job description. But I did do that because I wanted to have our best face forward. So we started bringing in Anna once a month. And with the increase over the past year or so of flights, and it seems like perhaps the community utilizes that bathroom, it was still not very nice. And so she comes in twice a month and spends between an hour and an hour and a half, I would say, between the 2 rooms twice a month. It's a very, very nominal amount. But
did the Toledo Skydiving Club, do they notify you when they come out here?
They did call and leave a message. There was really no concern of mine because from my understanding, they drop over the beach. The skydivers.
It's great, except the toilet was totally plugged up after they left. I don't know, they did it. Somebody else could have done it after they left, but 2 days after they left, they went in there and I was gonna maybe offer them an Ocean Shores garbage bag next time to put their trash in or something. I could take it to the dumpster.
That's a great idea. I have the contact information for the gal who contacted me. Her name was Heather. I spoke to another gentleman too, but his name is escaping me at the moment. I want to say it was Adam, but anyway, they were very respectful, very grateful to use our facilities. We have an RC flyer who thinks that they should have issued a NOTAM, but they're not skydiving over our field. They're skydiving over the beach.
Yeah.
So there's really no necessary NOTAM required for that. It's not really entering our airspace that far away.
And they are a great group. I hauled some of them from the beach back to go do another jump too. They're a real fun group. It
They
just,
were great.
I just noticed the bathroom, the toilet was plugged up and folded around, and Bill and
That's
I.
a great point though, Jerry. If we need to, I will definitely consider that for the next year and make sure that maybe even we check periodically throughout the weekend or you know, in the evenings after they're done for the day. But make sure that their facilities are operating. I didn't think of that at all. So that's a great call.
I have a question. The Toyota skydiving, so they come out and they use, I mean, they jump over the beach, you're saying, that's fine. But they use our airfield to pick up the jumpers and jump again, or? That's nice. How often do they do that?
This is their third year. I wasn't aware that they did it before. This is the first time that they called me.
It's kind of a annual appreciation thing for their jumpers. Heather owns the skydiving club, and she's also a school teacher in Castle Rock. Really great group of people, and I just love it. It's just, it really puts some exposure in the airport. They're out here having a great time. Some people fly in, you know, with rented planes or their own planes to you know, spend the weekend jumping. It's the most fun weekend at the airport I've seen down here.
And they did not camp at the airport, but they did set up canopies off site to help get their or off the apron to help get their gear ready. But it may be something we want to consider allowing camping you know, for that weekend to get more people in. I know that we would like to allow a fly-in camping for airport appreciation, and that has been granted in the past. So it is something we could definitely consider discussing moving forward.
Yeah, I think they're a pretty respectful group, and that would be probably be a big plus.
And collaborate a little bit more versus just kind of react to their arrival.
Did they spend the whole weekend here then?
I'm not sure if they did jumps on Sunday, but I know they were here on Friday evening and Saturday.
They did Saturday and Sunday a year ago. I missed it this year. They came in the day after.
So moving forward, we've used 21.51% of the airport budget. So we're doing well. There hasn't been a lot of maintenance efforts, but you know, we're in the middle of the biennium, or actually just on the underside of the biennium. So we still have another year to go. John Wagner has retired as our lead maintenance manager, and so Sean Pease has taken over. Jerry, you may have met him on the walkthrough. Stu, I don't know if you were there to paint the segmented circle and talk about runway maintenance as far as lighting goes, but he's participated with Bill and walked through that process. So should Bill not be available, he does a lot of that maintenance on our runway lights, PAPI lights, just general airport maintenance when he's here. Sean Pease can definitely step in and assist with that. And he's been very responsive and just a great person to work with. I'm going to go back up to the top of our agenda. Maintenance update. So a few members of the committee participated in painting the segmented circle in June. Here's a good look at it after it had been weed eated and painted, kind of stuck back together.
They're really broken.
Yes, and there's been some conversation here about fixing the segmented circle, but a few members of the airport committee didn't think that it was necessary, even though our last 5010 inspection requested that we do so. So it was spruced up with some paint. And maybe that's something that we need to consider this next year, tasking our maintenance department on just kind of fixing those broken pieces. Now, I will say that our segmented circle is included in our SCIP, our state capital improvement plan, to be moved. And that's per the airport layout plan, because this space could be potentially utilized for hangars. But that's in the years to come. So we may want to fix it before we anticipate moving it.
You know, as far as our airport layout plan, and I'm trying to remember offhand where the segmented circle was shown on that. It seems like the north of the parking apron. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I'm kind of pointing to the location north of the apron. It's this vicinity here. And as you can see, it's nice and bright. I mean, it's a tiny little photo, but it is a lot brighter.
Going back to the airport layout plan, my opinion is that the layout plan location up by your house, it's not a real good location. It's not centrally located. It's not real. It's just not a good spot. Whereas the place where it is now is, in fact, easily visible in the middle of the airport for people to see. We might consider in the future getting the layout plan changed and making this the official location. Having a segmented circle and the windsock centrally located on the airport is much easier to find from the air than having it off to the side like that, off the end of the apron area. So that's just,
well, in my opinion, it would, oh, sorry about that.
Something to keep in mind.
In my opinion, it's still centrally located on the runway strip and taxiway. And it will just depend on what we want to do with this hangar development area, because they have to have access. But that is a future discussion. The FAA does not ask that I've talked to them about updating our airport layout plan, and they don't anticipate doing that for a few years because we haven't had much development. I think they don't want to pay for it. Here is a picture of volunteers. Hey, there you are, Jerry.
There I am.
The lines.
It was kind of windy. I got paint all over me. I wore my painting clothes.
Thank goodness. And we did have a couple public works gentlemen help with that maintenance crew. So we're very appreciative. And then these are all great. These are all pictures courtesy of Bill, and that's what the new runway numbers look like from the ground. So thank you very much to everybody who participated. Your time is invaluable. And again, you can kind of see the 33 from the air. These are pictures that Bill took, and they're just very bright. Can really see that middle line now. Okay. The next item that we have on discussion is the camera update. The camera, the still shot camera has been installed. The link can be found on airnav.com. And actually that is not live yet. I'm working with AirNav now to try and get that on there, but it is available on the city's website. The FAA, I've discussed, they have a program in which they will host the images on their servers on behalf of the airport for pilot weather review. So I'm working with the FAA to also get the link up through their systems. And that way there are several locations where a pilot can find that information. So Bill was very happy. He got his camera. We had a camera up but it had deteriorated. So hopefully this one will be better. There was some firefighting activities north of the city on the Quinault Indian Reservation, and the helicopter had run out of fuel. Actually, the one I'm speaking of may have been in Copalis Beach. The firefighting aircraft had run out of fuel, and they wanted to fuel here at the airport. And it was after hours in the evening on a weekend. And so they fueled at the park across the street. We don't want that to happen. I thought that emergency access was posted, but it is not. So I took signs down to the bathroom and to the airport lounge, and it is included on our city's website under the airport about how to access. The fire department and police department are very well versed about emergency access to the field. They ask that we call dispatch, and they will be dispatched out to that gate. So in the future, there will be access for everyone. I mean, and I'm going to include that information on airnav.com as well. It's already on the city's website. It's already at the airport, and it is included on both of my voicemails should they call me to call 911 if they have emergency needs to access the airfield. That was actually a recommendation by Richard Sires, one of our committee members, to include on my voicemails. So I updated that. And the last item is the SCIP, State Capital Improvement Plan, submitted on an annual basis, Jerry. I left this last year's up here to show you this was our obstruction removal. It was far greater than $222,000 as was entered into here in 2021. It's actually $700,000. We are in carryover years, but we do not have entitlement funds for this year because our base aircraft dipped below 10. So it's very imperative that we try and get all of the support that we can, or we will have to continue carrying our projects over until we can accumulate funds. Next year will be another carryover year. In 2025, preliminary engineering and analysis is proposed on our AWAS system, which keeps getting pushed back. From my understanding, it was proposed, and then we had a backup generator project that was required in order to get an AWAS. Now that is prior to my time here at the airport. And so the backup generator had to come before we could do the AWAS work. And then once we got the backup generator and went through that process, then they came out and did an inspection and noticed the obstructions in our airway. So we had to take care of that, which has been a process since 2018. So 5 years. And now we can finally get to our AWAS system. So our next plan is in 2025 to request funds to conduct the preliminary engineering and analysis of that AWAS system. These are not new projects. These have actually rolled over, but we will have to start considering maybe in this next SCIP process what we're going to do in the long run, and that would potentially be in 2030.
Sir?
Yes.
Oh, actually, we have to get the generator first.
Do we? Oh, we don't have our generator. We just did the feasibility study on it.
That comes before the AWAS comes.
I will ask Century West where that generator went on this list and ask them to correct it. This is part of Century West's scope of work as our on-call architect and engineer. I can help steer them, and so can this committee, but they typically allocate those costs. That's it. So these are not new. The fence was added on here last year as a placeholder because it's deteriorating and it's deteriorating quickly. Those are all of the items that I have for discussion today, just to bring the committee up to speed. Not a lot going on at the airport now that our obstruction removal has been conducted. I need to write that comment down though about the generator. Although, Stu, that feasibility study happened so long ago, I wonder if they will take it.
Right, but I mean, the generator itself has to be acquired and installed prior to the AWAS being acquired and installed, correct?
That was my understanding. I don't know if that has changed at all, but I'll talk to Century West about it and report back.
And Century West, actually, just to make sure I can clear my mind, they work for the city, for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tell them.
I'm sorry, it kind of broke up. Is it just me, Jerry, or did you get that?
I can't hear him either.
We can actually tell Century West what we want them to do, right?
Yes, that's not what I'm inquiring about. What I'm inquiring about is why it was removed in the first place. The backup generator. I'd like to know what their reasoning was, if it is a requirement, and they should be able to provide us guidance on architect and engineering, which would surround that generator. I'm not asking them for permission to put it back onto the state capital improvement plan. What I'm doing is asking what their method was of removing it in the first place. Or the logic behind that. They were not. It could be, and they were not involved in that feasibility study process. So maybe they thought that that had been completed. That was an oversight on my part to not catch it when I reviewed the state capital improvement plan. So we'll double check that.
Well, personally, I would never assign anything to you as an oversight on your part. So there.
Oh, well, it definitely was, because I noticed that it's not on there, and you're right. We should have, it's been on our list for some time. So I'm not quite sure what happened there, or if they had decided that it was the AWAS was more of a priority. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but again, that the conversation and the feasibility study of that backup generator occurred before I came on board. So that's how it was explained to me, was that it was a requirement prior to AWAS.
Gotcha.
Well, with that, is there anything for the good of the order?
Oh, just so I'm clear. So how many official aircraft do we have here now? You said we dipped below 10?
We have 10, but 2 of those have been sold, and they were registered. They're still registered with us, but they were registered under their prior owner. I don't know if the new owners anticipate on changing their registration. So that's something I'd like to follow up with the new owners.
Okay, so
we also have 2, so that brings us down to potentially 8. And then we have 2 aircraft that were claimed by 2 other airports. The one that you had originally been registered with, Jerry, and you graciously allowed us to claim it for registration. And then there is a pilot that comes in regularly that calls me and tells me if there's lighting out or whatnot. Bob and I believe it's Diane Sigwa. They are pilots that have, or Bob is, that has a house here. And I called him and asked him if we could register his aircraft here, and he agreed. So what happens is, from my understanding, FAA doesn't count an aircraft at all if it's claimed by 2 airports. So Century West is working on contacting the 2 airports for the 2 vessels that are being claimed double claimed. But that would keep our number at 8 if the new aircraft owners want to re-register elsewhere. If we keep it status quo now, we have 10 and we need 11, but more would help us tremendously. More would help us should anything changed, we won't dip below our threshold.
Well, let's get Bill to buy another airplane.
Yes. And he actually has 2 aircraft, one of which is registered here, but housed in Renton.
Right. Well, they should both be registered here.
He does have both. Well, with that, I don't have anything else for you, gentlemen. We can go ahead and adjourn so you can get on your way, Jerry.
Okay, just one quick thing. There's probably no money in the budget, but if you wanted to attract more airplanes down here too, would the city ever consider building, a row of 6 or 8 T hangars that people could rent?
We don't have a budget to be able to do that. I think that there is some, I don't think that we have a big enough draw to encourage the council to adopt a budget to do so. It's not on their priority, but it's definitely something that we could consider. I don't know if FAA funds can be used to develop hangars for revenue. And we have other projects that have been on the line, but it is definitely something that we could consider in the future. At this time, I don't think we're going to get a budget out of council to do so.
Okay.
It's something I know we're looking at doing, vertical evacuation sites, which is funded by FEMA, right?
FEMA will only pay for the seismic portion.
Right.
FEMA.
It's still a big chunk of it. Anyway.
But they will only pay for the seismic portion. So they will only pay for the vertical evacuation structure that gets built on top of our structure. They will only pay for the additional, let's call them footings or pilings that need to go into the ground, but they won't pay for our foundation.
Okay. So the vertical evacuation structures they're fighting about with the school district, those are standalone structures, correct? And FEMA's paying for all that, right?
75%.
Okay. So anyway,
but those are standalone structures.
Right. Something to possibly consider is a sort of a standalone structure along the west side of the apron in the grass area right now. That could be housed aircraft parking underneath it, so like a big airplane carport, but be a vertical evacuation structure for maybe 600 people, 300.
So that site is identified in the Safe Haven project for a vertical evacuation structure, whether it is a standalone structure or added to a structure that we propose to build. But if we use FEMA dollars to build a standalone structure, we cannot utilize it for anything else.
Oh. Well, that's kind of selfish on their part, but okay, I understand.
For example, Westport is proposing a vertical evacuation structure, and I almost want to call it an amphitheater or perhaps an event center, but they're paying for the event center and FEMA is paying for the seismic retrofit of that event center.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. I know it. I've had people call and inquire about hangars, hangar availability, but they don't want to build their own. They would want to lease a private one. And so it might be worth looking into at least what Hoquiam is making as a profit from their hangar rentals.
They are?
If they are, I don't know. I mean, they rent them out, they own them.
Yeah, those big giant things, they can't quite keep in return. Okay. What about Westport? Are those all privately owned hangars over there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can definitely find out though.
That's maybe more to the point. You know, we being more comparable to Westport than we are to Hoquiam.
Yeah, it would be worth finding out if they're turning a profit.
Okay. I have nothing else. Move to adjourn.
Sounds good to me. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Jerry, welcome to the committee.
Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.